My name's Tim Caulfield. I'm the Director at the Secretariat of the Initiative. Thanks for joining us. We've got over 100 people who are listening to us today. To my left I have Susanna Forlan from the project unit, who's project officer in the project unit at the Initiative. And to my right I have Edouard Gattino, another project officer in the project unit. Basically today there's an hour and a half for the session. Edouard and Susanna will take the majority of the session, both the presentations as well as the question and answer session. Please ask questions at the end of the presentation. There's plenty of time for questions. We'll have probably half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes for the presentation, and then we'll go into the question and answers. Please click on the hand for the question session as well. Just in terms of the webinars, this is the first time we've done a webinar at the Initiative, so it's a trial for us, as the projects are also trials for the UIA Initiative. We've had 4 applicant seminars already that have gone into more of the detail of eligibility, costs, application form, and what we're looking for regarding innovation as well, all in one block. Here what we've done is we'll have 4 webinars, actually splitting some of those blocks up. So the first webinar today is on innovation. The next one will be on the 9th of February, looking at partnership, how to create a UIA partnership and what we expect from UIA partnerships. On the 16th of February, we'll be looking at the intervention logic, putting together an intervention logic and drafting the budget. And finally, on the 23rd of February, we'll have an element on planning your project management as well as communication strategy. So these webinars are really to complement our communication, add to our communication, to ensure that you've got the relevant information and the appropriate information to put together a successful application. Please remember as well that this is a competitive application process. People will be disappointed at the end of the process as well. At the very first call we had over 370 applications and only 18 of those were supported. So as I said, very competitive, and it's also relative to regarding all the other projects and project proposals that have been put together. This call, there's 50 million ERDF, and therefore we can support around 10 to 12 projects, depending on the actual amounts in terms of ERDF that they're seeking and that we support. The deadline for the call is the 14th of April 2017 at 2 p.m, so 1400 hours CET. And that's when we'll have a cut-off. It'll be an automatic cut-off from our system, that then we cannot go back on that. So really make sure even beforehand you're putting in your applications, because what we don't want is a block at that time where everybody's online trying to submit. In terms of the topics of the second call, we have circular economy, integration of migrants and refugees, and urban mobility. You'll see that integration of migrants and refugees is similar, or is the same as the first call. However, some of the actual detail is different, and you please look in the terms of reference for that. What we need to do for this particular is go above and beyond what we've already supported in the past. So we're not looking to support similar types of projects, but different projects in the initiative for this. As I said, today we'll go through the innovation character. This is split down into 5 elements: what definition of innovation, trends from the UIA first call for proposals. So we'll go into what some of the projects were about, what the innovation we found innovative in those projects, how to generate innovation within urban authorities, how to put your benchmarking together. Again, benchmarking was a very important aspect that the experts, when they evaluate the projects, look at to ensure that it's not actually happened in Europe before. And finally, innovation and other criteria. So what I'll do now is just pass on then to Susanna, who will go through the majority of the rest of the presentation in liaison with Edouard. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning to everyone. So we'll start this part of the presentation looking at our definition of what innovation is. And we want to provide you with this definition because we've had a lot of questions about what exactly do we mean by this term. So under the UIA, which is it's an initiative to help cities experiment with innovative new solutions for urban challenges, we are looking for new products, services, and processes that have never been tested before in the European Union and that are able to add value to a specific policy field. When we say that it's an innovation, we don't mean that it's relative innovation to a local, a regional or national context, but it is really innovative at the European level. We also expect that when you define your innovative solution, that you take into account that it will build on existing best practices that you may have already in your municipality, and that you have identified the challenges that they may have in terms of implementing this innovative solution. So if you want to read a little bit further about what we mean by this definition, I would recommend that you look at our UIA guidance document that you can find on our website in order to find a bit of a more developed definition here. When we talk about innovation in the UIA, we also would like to make clear that when we are talking about innovation and these innovative projects, that we aim to spot, to support and capitalize on the best projects in Europe, the most innovative. So what does this mean? This means that when you are putting together your innovative solution, you should also take into account that we are looking for these excellent ideas, and you should also take into account three main points that we would like to remind you of. We do not fund projects that would have been funded under other mainstream programs. We are funding risky projects, and we know that there's a lot of European funds available where you would be able to perhaps fund your project. So take this into account. There's around 40 billion euros out there for you to bid into. So it's really about those excellent proposals. We would not fund projects that are just merely part of normal local activities. It's not about something that you would already do with other funding streams or normally in the municipality or the urban authority, but something really out of the box. And we are looking for solutions that go beyond the present state of the art and business as usual. So please take this into account when you're assessing whether your solution is innovative. So here at the UIA, we've tried to make a sort of a split on the innovation, on what two types of innovation, and we try to make it quite a clear split between what we call the revolutionary and the evolutionary, but we know that sometimes it's not possible to have a clear-cut division. So we've split the innovation into two types. The first one is the revolutionary, where we have completely new solutions that have never been tested before in a policy field in the EU. So that's something completely groundbreaking and never seen before here in the European Union. And then we have a second type, which is the evolutionary, which would be combining existing resources or capabilities to create a new function or a new meaning. So this means having maybe an idea that's already been in place in the European Union, and you add a new element in order for it to be evolved. This could be, for example, changing the scale, making something that may have been tested before at small scale, but making it larger. Or, for example, targeting this maybe perhaps tested solution to a new target group, which would bring that innovation and how this target group would react to this. We will anyway provide examples on what we mean by this revolutionary and evolutionary innovation through the projects that were approved in the first call for proposals.
If we look at the first projects that were approved, what can we see there in terms of the innovation and how did they do it? So what we saw was that the solutions that they proposed, the innovative solutions, were a combination of products, of services and processes. So it was not one single action, but it was a combination of actions. We saw that the successful cities projects that were funded provided this combination, because by only proposing one thing, such as a product or a service, for example, a social service for migrants, it was not enough in itself. It was not. So we saw that to be successful, there was a combination of innovative mix between product, services and processes. The second thing that we saw, which is linked to the first, is that these solutions are a complex set of actions, where the most important action, the most is central, and it's the most innovative part. So, and the reason is because, as we mentioned, the UIA gives cities, main urban authorities, to ask for up to 5 million euros of ERDF. So that's quite large scale. And it gives the possibility for various actions to be undertaken, even if the most innovative one is a central one. Also, we know that the topics that we deal with are complex, and because they're so complex, you also need a complex answer to tackle them. So that's why we saw that this is there's a lot of actions proposed in one single proposal. And also, to have this innovative central element, to really implement it, it actually needs more traditional elements around it in order to be implemented. So that's why we've seen this trend. If we look at the majority of the projects that we funded in the first call for proposals, we can see that the evolutionary innovation, so what we mentioned before about taking traditional elements and giving it a new meaning, were the most predominant. So we funded more projects on an evolutionary innovation than a revolutionary. But this depends on the topic. So I'll go now through the different topics that we had in the first call, and I'll give you examples to illustrate what we mean by this. So, as we mentioned in the beginning of this section, we had 4 topics, and we have different projects funded under these topics. So in the energy transition topic, we have 3 projects from the cities of Gothenburg, Paris and Villa-de-Cans. And here we can see that the innovation that they brought in was not maybe technological, which might have been expected in under this topic. And as we can see in other programs such as Horizon 2020, where there's a big focus, here we actually saw that these urban authorities were proposing things on a focus on local governments, on energy delivery, as well as, for example, financial schemes. So if we take some examples from the projects themselves, we can see, for example, that the city of Villa-de-Cans proposed a public-private citizen partnership in order to deliver this energy transition. So it's really bringing citizens with the other stakeholders that are more traditionally in charge of these things to the table to decide on how they would do the energy transition. So that's, for example, an innovative element that we appreciated. For example, with the city of Gothenburg, who will create a new local energy market, they've based it in one part of the city, which is the university campus. And here they will suspend legislation in order to test and pilot the energy transition. So it's really going beyond what normal municipalities can do with a risky experiment as this. For the topic of migrants and refugees, we have 5 projects. And here we can see that the 5 projects have focused on different elements, such as the empowerment of migrants and refugees, creating one-stop shops for them and testing traditional services with these new target groups, and working on community acceptance. So the arrival of new migrants and especially of refugees, how is this accepted, and trying to improve this social cohesion. So, for example, we can look at the case of the city of Bologna, which have proposed an innovative project where they have a one-stop shop, especially for refugees and migrants. And you may think, well, a one-stop shop has been seen before or across Europe, But here, not only are they creating these services that would normally be targeted at the citizens, they're really targeting at them, and also they're allowing the migrants to feel empowered and contribute to the development of this one-stop shop. So here we can see that it's perhaps a traditional element that has been targeted at a new group. So, for example, the city of Vienna has also gotten down the line of empowerment, where they are organizing their services with refugees directly. So it makes the refugee, the target group, not a passive group that just receive the services, but they also actually involved in the design and are equal partners in designing this policy and strategy. And for example, the city of Utrecht takes a different approach, where they look at entrepreneurship from day one. And it doesn't matter about the status of the migrant or refugee. It can be even people who have not gained asylum status, and they do not really look at this status. That's not so important. It's not the focus. It's about getting them integrated from day one, no matter their status. And it's something we've never seen really before in Europe. So these are some examples. So if we look at the third topic that we had in the first call, we had jobs and skills in the local economy. And here we can see there's some trends where we see some cities want to anticipate economic transitions. And there's also a focus on skills enhancement and social enterprise. So if you look, for example, at the projects from the cities of Bilbao and Rotterdam, you can see that because of an economic crisis or because of a change in the economic sector in the city, that they are anticipating that they need skills, that these skills are actually perhaps in the city themselves or can be developed in the city in the next couple of years, and they're already getting courses together, etc. So, for example, the city of Rotterdam will work with local schools in its most deprived neighbourhood, Rotterdam South, where they will target primary schools. And they will get children from the age of 9 to on a path to a certain career that is linked to the main economic activities of the city, which in this case is the port, where they need specific skills. And this project not only helps perhaps children who may not have many possibilities or much guidance on what to do in secondary or vocational school, and they have the opportunity to see there's actually a way out of poverty, out of a deprived neighbourhood through employment from a very, very early stage. And this also helps the urban authority deal with the skills gap in the future, when they know that these sectors will be further developed. There's also another project looking at social enterprises and the development of, from the grassroots level, social enterprises. And here it's the city of Madrid that will develop activities with people who have skills but are maybe unemployed due to the economic crisis, and how from their own development, their own skills, they can develop social enterprises in the sectors of recycling, of transport, of food, in the social. So it's about getting maybe another way of creating employment, not from the business side, not from the top down, but from people themselves, empowering them to be able to create their own possibilities. So if we look at the last topic, which is urban poverty, here we can see that there are revolutionary approaches to really this issue, this challenge, and also that they have started to create one-stop shops, but that provide a new function in the city. So if we look at the very revolutionary approaches, we can see that there are two projects that have really demonstrated that it's completely groundbreaking in Europe. Firstly, we have the city of Barcelona, who will provide a part of its citizens with a basic minimum income. And we've never seen something proposed at such a city level. And here they will do tests with certain parts of the population in order to see how it would affect them, especially in this deprived neighbourhood that they're targeting, and see how, by giving them certain income, if it makes them look for employment, does it allow them to participate further in society, and is it a way to replace the more traditional benefit system that citizens such as them would receive? So it's really about a trial. So let's see what happens there. And then we have the city of Turin, who, for instance, has created a commoning goods system. So it's about really making the city, giving it really to the citizens and for them to really use the common goods, such as buildings that are municipal buildings, public spaces, really giving them the chance to manage them and to create a space that is useful for their neighborhood and for their needs. And this is really about participatory processes, it's about changing legislation, it's about a mix of new things to create this new way of seeing public goods. So it's really about breaking the normal activities. So those are two examples from the urban poverty topic. What I would say, and I would really recommend, is that you read our project pages. So we have on our website pages dedicated to each project where we talk about the challenge that the cities are facing, how they deal with it, the innovation, the innovativeness of the solution, their main milestones, and what they will achieve, the results. Especially for those of you who are interested in proposing something in the second call for proposals on integration of migrants and refugees, please read the projects that we've already funded, because we will not fund similar ideas again. So make sure that you're not repeating something that's already there. So if we move on to the following section here, we will talk a little bit about how we've seen that the projects that were approved actually generated the innovation within their own organization. So here we have 5 main points that we saw that really led to this innovative solution being proposed. So for some of the projects, we saw that it was really a case of leadership within the municipality. So there was a political backing. There was a mayor, a deputy mayor, who really wanted to change things, to take a risk, saw this funding opportunity that the Urban Innovative Actions provides, because it's very unique in the sense it's really targeted at urban authorities to take this risk and experiment. So we really saw that it was something that the politician wanted and really wanted to support. So that's one of the things that we saw. Then, for example, we saw that it was a real cooperation between departments and how to. So we, for example, we saw that the city of Lille, they explained the story behind the proposal, where there was a competition between departments to propose something under the 4 topics. And present it to see which one would be selected. So each department, whether it be for energy, for job creation, for poverty, social inclusion, and for integration, they all developed an idea for each of the topics. And they were sort of in a competition between each other to see who could actually propose the best. In the end, the topic selected was urban poverty. But because everyone had given quite good proposals, they decided to use little elements of each idea, even if urban poverty was the main focus, and integrate them. And now that the project is approved, it's one of our 18 projects from the first call for proposals, we can see that also people from the different departments will work on the project. So it not only allowed for the city to innovate, but it also allowed for the breaking down of silos, of interdepartmental cooperation. So it's a double bonus from the UIA. We also saw that the ideas proposed, some of them were actually ideas that were floating around the municipality or with partners of the projects, but there had never been this chance to present them. So it was a chance to get that idea out of the drawer and really do something with it. So that was one of the things that we were explained by our successful projects. Also, we know that for some of them, the innovation itself, the idea, may not have come directly within the municipality, but a project partner might have had a good idea that they thought could be good for the urban authority, and that's working with these partners and stakeholders and developing the solution was where the innovation was generated. So, for example, the city of Birmingham had an open call for all its local partners, saying there's this opportunity, we have this challenge, and how do we develop something that is innovative and risky that can help us really solve the challenge on urban poverty? When, for example, they had many years of funding, both at national and European level, but nothing had seemed to really work for a certain neighbourhood. So it was this chance. And ideas brought by partners and maybe not so usual partners going beyond the traditional triple helix, they had developed this very good idea for this neighbourhood. So that was also a good way of generating the innovation. And we saw, for example, that the city of Antwerp, who is a member of a network of cities, also used its transnational networking to gain inspiration and also certainly to a certain extent benchmark ideas that they had on the integration of young refugees, which is their project. It's about young refugees who've turned 18 years old and who are no longer eligible to be protected by a social system because they're now considered adults, but who still, as young adults, need support. So it's about, and they created a new buddy system where they provide them housing, but as well training and health services. So, and they use these international European networking opportunities that they have as through their membership or through going to European conferences to really understand that their idea was truly innovative. So these are what we saw from the first call projects. And as I was mentioning, the benchmarking is an extremely important element. Tim mentioned it also at the beginning of this webinar. We need to prove that these projects, these solutions that you're proposing are truly innovative. So there is a big benchmarking exercise that we ask of all proposals. So why do you actually need to do this benchmark? And you will see in the application form there's a whole section where you need to fill it in. But why? We share the responsibility with you of really analysing that your idea is innovative. And once you submit your proposal and you're deemed eligible, your proposal is then assessed by a panel of external experts who will look at your proposal and also look to really prove that your solution is innovative. So in order to do that, we ask you to fill in where you've seen this idea or you haven't, and really prove with examples of how your solution is revolutionary or evolutionary. So you'll have to do this. The experts, of course, are experts and they know a lot, but they are not superheroes, so they can't exactly know everything. So once they see that you have done a benchmarking exercise, it helps them to see what, to do the assessment, and it kind of gives a trust relationship between the proposal and them. So it would be also good in the eyes of the expert if you do this benchmarking exercise properly. So what should the results of your benchmarking be? Well, you should look at literature, at case studies, at many things that are out there to see if your idea is revolutionary, so you've actually found that there's never been anything like this done in Europe. You really don't, so you have to say it. It's not been done, or maybe you found inspiration in the US, and you can say, well, this was implanted in Washington, but then it's never been done in Europe, so you explain it. Or you find that there are examples of what you want to do from other cities, other places in Europe, but you explain how you evolve from these initial ideas, these first ideas in other places. So this would be the two results of this benchmark. So how should you do this benchmarking? So there is a lot of literature out there. So please, if you find whether it's an academic report, you just please include it. There's many case studies also out there. There's a lot of European programs that show case studies. So you should look at all these databases that there are. You can also perhaps use more less traditional measures. I don't know, such as if you have a sister city in other places in the world outside Europe, and you can talk to them to see what kind of ideas they have and demonstrate that they maybe come from other parts of the world. You can also perhaps speak to experts, to your peers. You may also participate in events, speak to experts from other programs, for example, URBACT. So, use all these different possibilities that you may have to demonstrate this benchmarking. So we've included in the next slide just some ideas of how, and just some examples of how you can gain inspiration or benchmark your idea. So we would also recommend, and you'll see that it's the first logo. It's the one-stop shop that DG Regional Policy from the European Commission has created. Because here you can really have a database of many good practices. So it's really the gateway to do your benchmarking exercise. And also we've included other places from other websites and initiatives where you could perhaps look at specific topic databases such as the Civitas if you're working on urban transport. You can look at the DG Growth database for the circular economy and the use of, for example, industrial symbiosis. And you can use, for example, there's a Eurocity Solidarity Cities that works mainly on the integration of refugees. So you can use these different instruments that you have at your disposal. So that's mainly part of the innovation element and part of the benchmarking. And now I'll pass on to my colleague Edouard, who will look at how to get those brownie points. So not just when you explain your innovation, but also how you bring innovation from the other two criteria, which are the partnership and the measurability.
Thank you, Susanna. Indeed, you've seen from previous slides and also explanations from Susanna and Tim that the first call was highly competitive. So 378 applications for only 18 approved cities and projects. And so yes, you need to demonstrate the innovation. You need to demonstrate that you've done your benchmark and that your solution is truly innovative, but that will not be sufficient because of this fierce competition. So you need to demonstrate as well innovation throughout the project. And the first element that we look at is the innovation in the partnership. So really, what kind of innovation can you bring in the partnership? So the first element is really looking at the type of partner that you can involve. So new partners can bring new ideas, new solutions, and challenge the way the processes that municipalities usually have. So it's really interesting to have new partners on board also to generate innovation. And we've seen this from first call applications, successful cities, explaining that in the process of generating the innovation and coming up with the concepts of the innovation and the innovative solutions, that they opened a call for solutions basically, and so they spoke to different partners, which they were not used to work with. So that's where we touch on the idea of going beyond traditional partnerships and try to reach out to unusual suspects, what we call the unusual suspects. So no more triple helix, which is obviously important to work with traditional or more traditional partners, but also open up to new type of partners to generate innovation. And a key feature and the key element that we've seen in first call application is really the role and the importance of co-design and co-implementation and co-creation of projects. That's really where we could see a clear difference between projects really having been developed in co-partnership with different types of partners, because we can see here the new thinking, the new definition of what the solution could be. The other criteria where we also expect innovation and where we have seen innovation in the first call is on the measurability, so the monitoring and evaluation framework. So here we really invite cities to take up the challenge of entering the urban lab. So coming up with new methodologies with new indicators to measure what they're trying to achieve and the expected results. First call cities have really put a strong focus on monitoring and evaluation, so dedicated work packages, dedicated partners with the specific expertise, and dedicated budgets. So we also really invite you to consider the monitoring and evaluation as we see it as a learning loop for policy improvements. So that's an ongoing evaluation where measuring throughout different key milestones of your project the actual results and intermediary results will help you refine and adjust the proposed solution to make sure that you achieve the expected results. Because UIA projects are really about innovation, taking risks, and we know that maybe ideas on paper may not react as planned when confronted to the reality of the ground. So it's really important that you embed this monitoring and evaluation aspect in your project. We're also looking at seeing innovative methodologies. So different kind of monitoring and evaluation, counterfactual, theory-based, can be proposed and can be implemented in projects. And we've seen good examples in first call cities. For example, the city of Barcelona that Susanna mentioned are using the counterfactual evaluation method to actually find out what is the best, let's say, mechanisms to deliver this minimum income. The city of Birmingham also used community researchers, so in terms of engaging with the population, with the people actually on the ground. So they use this concept of anthropological research based on these community researchers. So there are plenty of solutions and options for this monitoring and evaluation aspect that we really saw they made a difference, let's say, in the selection of the first call for proposals. So we really invite you to have a look at this and really consider this while drafting your project.
Thank you. So now, just to conclude, we'll just go through our upcoming dates, as Tim mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. We have some more webinars coming up in the next few weeks. If you want to know a little bit more about the partnership, and as Eduard was just mentioning, also the innovative elements of the partnership, please register for the webinar next week on the 9th of February. If you're already advanced in your proposal writing and you're a little bit stuck on how to do a good intervention logic or how to draft your budget, then please register for the webinar on the 16th of February. And if you're already very advanced and you're looking at your project management and your communication strategy, which are two core work packages that you would have to fill in the application form, then please register for the 23rd of February webinar, which you will get also examples there. As a reminder, you have around 70-something days to write your proposal and submit it. So please keep in mind that the 14th of April is the deadline. So after that, we cannot accept any more proposals. And if you are in the vicinity, you'll have the opportunity. We have the Urban Development Network from DG Regio is organizing an event on the 9th of February in Warsaw to help potential applicants with their proposals. So if you have the possibility, then please look at the Urban Development Network and register for that event there. So now that you've heard from us, we would like to hear from you, and we're here to answer your questions. We have around 40 minutes to answer your questions, and please take this opportunity to ask them directly to us, and we'll try our best to answer them. So if you want to raise your hand, it's the little hand symbol that you have next to your the screen, then please do so now. It's your opportunity. If not, otherwise you can also write to us on the chat and ask, and we'll answer the question orally. You can also, if you have further questions or want to contact us directly, you can also contact us either through our info email accounts or directly to Edouard and I from the project unit, and you can find there our email addresses. So we'll give some time to see if there's anyone who has a question.
Yes, one question.
Hello, Lucy.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering whether or not some of what you've discussed today would be available online to read through again. So I've taken notes as you've talked, but in case I've missed anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we will make the presentations available for participants. So please don't worry about that, because we know that it's for your proposed item. So.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but it's been very useful. Thank you.
Published on the website very soon.
You have another question? Hello, Malina.
Hello.
You hear us? Hello?
And the other one for Edward.
Hello? Sorry, we didn't hear the beginning of the question.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, no, yes.
Okay, thank you. So the first question regards your presentation, Edward. You mentioned that in measurability aspects of innovation, there is a challenge of entering the urban lab. Could you please elaborate a little more about this urban lab? What is this and how it is connected to the urban innovative action? And the second one regards mostly, I assume, Susanna, because in the topic of migration and refugees, there is also another project that is not announced yet, the summary, at the city of Munich. Is there any estimation about when this will be available in order to see what has been already proposed as a benchmark as well? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, as for the urban labs, I mean, we see cities and the whole UIA initiative is about testing bold solutions. That's a bit the motto, let's say, of the initiative is the urban lab of Europe. So we're here to provide resources and room for innovation in cities, and that's why we see innovation, yes, in the proposed solution and the example of concept of projects that were presented, that will be presented, but we also expect innovation in the different elements of a project, including monitoring and evaluation. So that's what, I mean, the urban lab, that's what we mean by experimentation, and that's really, yeah, experimenting within city limits. As for maybe for the Madrid description, Munich description, we are still working on it and trying to finalize it as soon as possible, so it should be available shortly on the website.
Shall we take another question? We will take questions from the application form images.
Yes, so I can read the question out loud. So it's a question from Daniele Cocco. So in order to show the innovative character of the proposal, is it possible to insert pictures, plans, schemes, or other evidence? Is there any section that form the opportunity to upload them in the platform? So yes, that's a new feature that we have added to the application form for the second call. So there will be the opportunity to add annexes, so up to actually one document, up to 5 megabytes, where you could provide us with more information, plans, schemes, maps, so that we can better understand the proposed solution. So you will see there is a dedicated section in the application form where you should explain basically what this annex document is and why you have submitted it with the application form.
So we have a question from, sorry for the pronunciation, Senior.
Hello?
Right?
Hi. I'm just curious to know what happens after April. Will there be a third call? And in that case, what will the themes for a third call be? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, there will be a third call. It should be along the same timeline as the first and the second call, so we always launch it towards the end of the year, and with a closure again in around April the next year, so 2018. We don't know exactly the topics. This is selected by the European Commission, and it's and they will more or less notify us, the Secretariat, just before the summer. So we will try again to give you as much information about the topic, not only the topic itself, but its description, but it won't be available until in a couple of months for the third. So, and we cannot anticipate what kind of topics it will be, whether it will be a repetition of something that's already been done or be completely new.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
I am, yes. Well, homeowner, I would say probably tenant of the bank myself, but yeah.
Okay, so we'll take a written question from Ingrid. So can a project take partners from outside the municipality? I think we'll address more in details during the next webinar, partnership composition, what kind of partners can you bring on board. But yes, it's possible to have partners outside the municipality. But I mean, I really invite you to register for the next webinar, really focusing on partnership. And I think we'll have more examples from also approved projects to illustrate it. You want to go?
Oh, yeah. So I'll there's a written question, and it says it's from Alexa. So you mentioned that in the first call, more projects were funded that were evolutionary rather than revolutionary. Is there a tendency to be seen in the second call as well, or just the evolutionary projects were better? Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what can happen in what we will propose in the second call for proposal. And it's not that we give a preference to the evolutionary rather than the revolutionary. We really don't, and the experts didn't either. It's more that the ideas themselves were the best, and really the 18 projects that we funded were the best ideas out of the 378 proposals submitted. They're the ones that got most points from the experts. They're the ones that also provided a good intervention logic. Good project. But don't think that because you propose something that's evolutionary, we will give it more points. Really. I'm sorry about the technical issues.
Yeah.
So don't set out, when you're thinking about your solution, don't set out that you'll get more points for proposing one thing or the other. It's just about the good solution that you propose.
Yeah, there's a question about the City of Munich description on the website. Apparently Francesca hasn't got the first answer. So we're still working on it and should be available really shortly on the website.
Yeah. If you're very, very curious about the descriptions of our projects and you can't find because the Munich one is still not ready, we also have a little publication that we brought out when we announced the first projects on our website, and we can also make sure to put it with this presentation so that you can read a very initial short description of the Munich project.
Maybe we can take an oral question. Paula?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Just a formal question. We were wondering if it's possible to have to register in order to fill our form with an email that is not going to be the formal email from which we're going to send you the proposal. Is it okay? Or we have to use the email of the city administration, the formal one with the protocol?
No, you don't have to register and log in onto the platform to submit the application form. You don't necessarily need to have the municipality address, because when submitting the application form, we'll ask you to submit a confirmation letter with the signature of the mayor. So that's the way for us to see that the city is really engaged and committed to implement the project.
Elena, if you would like to ask us your question.
Hello, Elena.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I would like to know if it's possible to follow online the Warsaw seminar that is going to be held in Poland.
It's not possible. It's not going to be streamed, I'm afraid.
Okay. I just was wondering if it was possible not to attend physically all the presentation you're organizing, if you have develop a device in order to spread the information through this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not possible at the moment to stream either this event, because anyway it's not organized by the UIA Permanent Secretariat, it's organized by the Urban Development Network, and they have not foreseen streaming. But also we may perhaps see how we can do for our own applicant seminars. I don't know if you've all attended the call that we had in different cities in Europe, which was also useful for your proposal. But we'll see. We'll take note for the upcoming seminar.
Yeah, I see. We are reading some of the written questions, and they all relate to really partnership and questions on eligibility of partners. So I propose really maybe to take these questions next week, because we'll have a really dedicated session on how to check if a city is eligible or not, and what kind of partnership you can put together. So maybe I would say not to take these questions now, and next week.
Is it the same?
Yeah. And if you have also any specific question related to, for example, the case of Portugal, because I see there is a question for the eligibility, please drop us an email and we'll investigate this specific case and we'll check into the Eurostat tables with you. I can see that there are quite many questions around partnerships, and the last one being, what about partnerships between cities? I think here it's important to remind that we are really there to experiment locally. So we're not expecting transnational partnerships. We're not an Interreg or Horizon 2020 initiative. UIA is all about experimenting locally. So we mainly expect to have local partnerships, stakeholders from the same area to work together. Obviously, if you need a specific expertise, if you need a specific partner to join the partnership from a different member state or from a different region in your country, it is possible, but you will need to justify and explain why really you need this expertise in the project.
I don't know if you have any more questions.
A question on partnership again. Okay.
So maybe we can, for the partnership, as Edouard was mentioning, it would be better to just address these questions directly next week. There's another question on exporting the application form. And can they use a draft version after they have registered in the system? I believe you...
I can. It's not possible to export, let's say, the application from the system, but we have designed a working version of this application form, which is available on our website. So it's a Word document that you can use comments, track changes, and send it to your partners to simplify the project development process. But it's not possible to export the application form from the system. So, and the only way for you to submit the application form is to do it through our platform. So we would advise you to start really registering on this platform, have a look at the template, see how it is functioning, because the Word document is not 100% the same as the online application form. So we would recommend you really to register, have a look at the online application form, but use the working document really for project development and starting discussing first drafts with your partners.
And also, if you are using this working document, just a word of warning, please look at the character limit, because on the online system there is a strict character limit, so you can't write a whole novel to explain your innovative solution. There is a limit. So, please keep this in mind, because you will have to be very concise and to the point. So we have a written question. I would like to know which is the exact role of the UIA experts during the project and what are the tasks towards innovation. And this is from Letitia. So we have UIA experts that we, as the Secretariat, have put in place in order to provide advice to the approved projects, to gather knowledge from the project, to capitalize on this knowledge, and also to help with the transfer of this knowledge. So it's really about helping the implementation of the project. The experts will look at around the challenges that a project of innovation, such as the ones that we fund, will face. And because we work on projects of many different topics, we thought that it would be an interesting exercise to focus on common themes that all the projects, independently of the topic that they look at, how they would deal with them. So, for example, the challenges could be how they put in place public procurement, how they communicate with local partners, things that could be an obstacle in their implementation. So if you're putting together a proposal, then please, you'll see that anyway that there is a capitalization activity where there is the role of the expert. Because the experts are also recruited as in this role as giving guidance, they would also help the approved project if they have a doubt, and try to get, either they may have the knowledge on how to implement this innovation, but also they may be able to get this information from elsewhere through their networking or contacts or research. So that's their contribution as well to the innovativeness of the project.
I'll take the next question from Diana. The question is, at the end of the application process, will there be any kind of feedback for the applicants? And will every applicant receive a feedback on their proposal, even if it was not selected? So the selection process, once the project is submitted, is in 3 stages. The first stage is the eligibility check, so we make sure that all the eligibility criteria are met. If so, in any case, you will receive a notification if your project is eligible or not. The second stage, if eligible, is the strategic assessment. This assessment really looks at innovation, the quality of the partnership, the measurability, and the potential for scaling and transferability. This assessment is carried out by the panel of external experts who will look at the different elements of the project and will give a score. So that's where the main filter, let's say, is made between for example, for call 1, 378 applications that we received. At the end of the strategic assessments, only 27 projects were shortlisted. So the 27 top projects in terms of quality of innovation, partnership, measurability, and transferability. At the end of this stage, all projects will receive a feedback, detailed feedback on these 4 key criteria. So the experts will explain why, for example, the project hasn't been seen as innovative as others, maybe, or in competition to others that was not seen as the most innovative project submitted. So at each stage, applicants will receive feedback, detailed feedback on his or her application.
Okay, so we have another question from Frederick. So he's asking, regarding innovative methodologies to measure project results, is it necessary to involve academic experts or similar during the implementation? So if we look at the partnerships of our 18 projects, you'll see that there are excellent and renowned world universities included in the partnerships, as well as other entities, organizations that are also specialized on evaluation, and they've been included within the partnership, and they have perhaps even been given the role and responsibility of managing a work package within the project just on evaluation. And this is extremely important because not only does it help maybe the municipality who may not have the capacity or the to do this, and it's, you know, if you could leave it in the hands of someone who is an expert on this, and that will help you implement these this evaluation. I don't know, as examples.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the knowledge internally within the municipality to carry out monitoring and evaluation, that you know the right methodology to apply, I mean, we don't require academics to be involved. It's really up to you to know if you have the knowledge inside the municipality or not. There is no strict requirement for us to have University of Cambridge or any world-class renowned universities involved. A question from Nuno asking whether the innovation can be in the ID, in the partnership, or in the measurement tools. Yes, it can be in every element of the project. So we're really looking for the most innovative projects in terms of the solution itself. So the concept of the project, the new service, the new process, the new integration of different elements can be in the partnership. We also look at the composition of partnership. What kind of partners have you brought together to deliver this? But also, as I said before, in the monitoring and evaluation methodologies. So we'll look at the different aspects, the different elements of the project, and try to find the most innovative projects scoring on all these elements, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a question from Alessandra, and she's asking, could we go back to the difference between the revolutionary and evolutionary projects? She asked, is it clear in principle, but she would be grateful if we could provide her with more examples. Is it possible to test completely new products and services? Okay, so as we mentioned, in the approved projects, we have a majority which are evolutionary projects and a couple who are which are really truly revolutionary. So, for example, the revolutionary, I'll use the example of Barcelona. Barcelona are really proposing something that has never been done at city level, which is this minimum income. And they're applying it in a district, and they're using a little different focus groups to test if they give them a certain amount of income. It's not always the same amount for each of the focus groups. What will happen? And to do this, and to test this and to measure this, they will look at what are the reactions from this focus group once they're giving this income. So here we're talking about it's a new service that the municipality will give them because they're giving them this income, which these with the people, the population here who are unemployed or in a situation of poverty would not have received before. They would have received perhaps an unemployment benefit, a housing benefit, but they wouldn't have received an income, a direct income. So here it's about testing things and seeing how it triggers something in the population. So it's completely new because it has never been done in a population in Europe, and it's actually trying a new product and service. So there you have an example of the revolutionary. The evolutionary project. So for example, if we go to the city of Bologna. So they propose in one place, in an old refurbished old people's home or hospital, they propose that this old building, which was derelict, that they put together under one roof services for the migrants and refugees. These would be services that were perhaps only targeted at citizens, such as employment, cultural, healthcare, which perhaps maybe, may have been already under one roof in other places in Europe, but not specifically targeted at migrants and refugees. So then you can see that, it's not perhaps giving a new product and service, but it's about evolving this to this new target group that needs these kinds of services. So it's really up to you to make that combination of the actions. As we said, our projects are a complex set of actions that combine product services together, and you just have to make sure that you have a coherent and integrated way of proposing these actions.
Okay, I'll take the next question from Rosa. Do you have an idea of how many projects will be accepted in the second call? And will it be more or less the same as in the first call? The ERDF budget for the second call is lower than for the first call. So the first call was 80 million euro, and it's 50 million for the second call. So it's hard to tell in advance because we don't know the average project budget for people applying to the second call. But we expect more or less from 10 to 12 projects which can be approved under the second call.
Can we check if Ingrid has a question? She was the one raising the hand before the presentation. Can anyone check? Ingrid, you had your hand raised at the beginning of the webinar. I don't know if you had a specific question for us.
No, thank you. I wrote it because I thought because of my cold you couldn't hear me well. So
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. We're just checking.
Okay, so a question from Ileana about the benchmark. So where is it possible to verify the state-of-art project implemented in the EU? She mentions that we have shown before a list of programs and websites or databases online. And the subsequent question is there a website that summarizes every project tested in EU cities? There is no, I'm afraid there is no such big monster database that would be really helpful, I guess, for the benchmark. Instead, we really recommend to have a look at the different sectorial somehow databases. So we're talking about Horizon 2020, so the Cordis website, or the LPs for the urban mobility. So we have shown or recommended some databases that exist, but there are others existing. So we don't know all of them. So that's why we really recommend you to have a look, speak to colleagues, to peers in Europe, and see if they have others or other databases or documents that you could check for this benchmark.
Yeah, as one of our colleagues was saying, there is also a platform for the European Territorial Cooperation Project called the KEEP platform, which is new. And we also recommend that you check that.
Yeah. Okay, there's one question. Yeah, it's keep.eu.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. So I don't know if we have any last questions, any burning questions that you would have, and really take this opportunity to ask us directly. But if not, as you can see, you can always contact us via email to either to the info account or to us directly. We'll try to answer your questions as soon as we can, because we know that this is a very stressful time for you to put your proposals together. So please don't hesitate, and just really register for the next webinar, which will be very useful as well. Okay. You have there's someone asking for our email addresses, and they are on the slide that you can see and on your screen. But they will also be on the PowerPoint when we put it up on our website, so don't worry about that. Okay, then I think we close this webinar. Thank you very much for your participation, and good luck with your application.